Hello everyone, my name is Josh and welcome to WHIMS. And before I start this video, I want to say a great big Merry Christmas to all of you, to all my viewers, to YouTube, to all my subscribers, to my friends, to my family. I hope you're all going to have a very happy and very safe holiday season, and happy holidays to any of you who don't celebrate Christmas. I want to wish you all a safe holiday and a really happy holiday, a very joyful holiday. And I hope you enjoy the review that's going to come in the next couple of days, because I've got two reviews to do tonight, one of which I'm going to do on It's a Wonderful Life, and the other is going to be on Krampus, which is probably one of my favourite non-holiday films. And I'm going to get right into it. It was released in 1940. Sorry for the background noise, by the way. We're quite busy over here, so we're just getting everything prepped for the last few days before, the big day, before, Christmas Day. So I've had a lot of wrapping to do and other such things. So if you do hear noise every once in a while, that's because we're quite busy in the background doing other things. But I want to do a quick review for It's a Wonderful Life. Now, this film came out in 1940 and it stars James Stewart, and it was directed by Frank Capra. And it's essentially a film where when people talk about it or when people hear about it, they always think to themselves, oh, it's going to be one of those sickly sweet films. And it's because of the title. I think the title really does give you that impression that, oh, it's going to be very sickly sweet, it's going to be overly humorous or something like that. But when you actually watch it, it does actually start off quite grim. In fact, I think this is a perfect example of a sort of American Christmas Carol than even the American Christmas Carol, which I reviewed last year, which was Scrooged, which kind of is more like a playful parody of Scrooge rather than an actual adaptation. And in the case of It's a Wonderful Life, it stars a man called George Bailey, who, when we first meet him, he's essentially on the verge of unaliving himself. And I have to use that phrase because of YouTube. And he's about to take his own life, and there are various prayers being uttered off screen throughout the duration of the first few minutes. And then the prayers reach heaven, and an angel named Clarence is enlisted to help George Bailey. But the funny thing is even though he's an angel, he doesn't really know all that much about George Bailey. So him and his angel superiors basically give him a sort of quick recap, a sort of previously on It's a Wonderful Life, but it's not a TV show, and it's very kind of funny. But for a good 50% of this film, it is mostly done in flashback, where we see his childhood, we see all these great big events that have happened in his life, when George Bailey saved his kid brother Harry from drowning in a pool of ice, to him basically getting his ear whacked by a pharmacist for delivering the wrong medication, and him confirming that, it was poison. There's all these different things that went on, and of course it follows him and his potential romance with Mary, who is played by Donna. And their wonderful, very sweet romance that sort of blooms as a result of this entire, these entire, crazy events that happen around Bedford Falls. And what I really like about this film is, for one thing, James Stewart's performance. This is probably the crown jewel of his career. A lot of people might say, oh, it's Vertigo, or oh, it's Rope, or any one of his other films, some of his films with Hitchcock or Rear Window. But to me, I think it's a Wonderful Life, because he really does portray George Bailey like he's the everyman, in the sense that he's a guy who has dreams, he has aspirations. Like when he meets Mary, he's telling her about how he's going to, dust his feet off of this crummy old town, and he's going to go out there and see the world, Greece, the Parthenon, everything. And I'm going to go back to college and see what they know, and then I'm going to build things. And he says all these very wonderful things as if he's going to do them. And he does, for the most part. He tries to do them anyway, but the town keeps getting in the way. Like, there's a very sad moment that occurs throughout at one point during the film, where his father has a stroke, and his father sadly dies. And he is left to the business by by all of his associates, but his son George is left in the meeting to kind of, go over the business transactions and what's going to be left to him, what's going to be left to the entirety of the building and loan. And what a building and loan, from what I can guess, is supposed to be, it's kind of like a bank. If a bank were to close, or if someone's assets were to be frozen in a bank, then of course a building and loan will help bail you out of any debts or anything like that. So it's basically a way of helping you out if you're financially strapped. And That's just my guess. I could be completely wrong. Please correct me in the comments if I'm 100% wrong. But yeah, this film starts off kind of tragically, where George wants to do wonderful things. He wants to build things, he wants to go to school, he wants to get educated, but all the time he always gets his life halted by something or another. Like, say, for example, when he's going off to school to learn how to build things and set up businesses, he ends up being called back by the building and loan after they throw down Potter, who essentially is this sort of Ebenezer Scrooge type guy. Although I don't even want to give him the compliment of calling him an Ebenezer Scrooge, because he's much more unkind and much more nasty. Basically, he's like Homelander if he didn't have superpowers in The Boys, basically. He's quite horrible, cold-hearted son of a bitch who really doesn't deserve any ounce of remorse at all. And I think that's effectively what this is. It's essentially a story about one man going up against an entire going up against, this town. But instead of, fighting against it, he ends up, embracing it and doing all these very wonderful things for the community. Like, there's one scene which I think is just lovely, where he goes, instead of going on his honeymoon when he marries Mary, he decides to help these people at the building and loan get their money back and try to give them enough to the bank until the bank reopens. And he gives them as much as they can. And I love the interactions with people. Like, I love this scene where a woman goes, "Can I get $17.50 out of my money?" And he actually hugs her and he kisses her on both her cheeks and he says, "Of course you can." And I love moments like that. I love moments where there is just a genuine sweetness, and it doesn't feel overly indulgent or overly sweet or sickly. It's just the right amount of sweetness. And there's this really lovely scene where, when he's a teenager, both him and Mary, who he ends up falling in love with, have this thing where they sing the song "Buffalo Gals, Won't You Come Out Tonight?" And they always do this part, when it gets to the part where he goes, "And dance by the light of the moon," they do this very sweet thing where he goes, "De moon," and it's really lovely. And I just think this film is fantastic. This film is just such a great example of a great, good, feel-good Christmas film. Because whenever you feel like, oh, Christmas has kind of gone to the dogs, or it isn't like it used to be, and you feel the urge to kind of be a little bit, angry or frustrated with the holidays and summon the evil spirit of Krampus, then, of course, all you have to do to repel yourself, it's kind of like the holy crucifix of, warding off Krampus, is watching It's a Wonderful Life to me, where whenever you think something isn't going to go very well, or you don't really feel that lucky, you watch films like It's a Wonderful Life to make you feel good and make you think, well, things like this can happen. And sometimes you can feel bad about things, or sometimes you can feel like you're angry or frustrated. But whenever I get, sort of uncertain about the holidays, or kind of feel just a bit sad, I always watch It's a Wonderful Life to feel good. And I always watch it to kind of make me think, well, there is good in the world. And if you do enough good things for people, you will eventually, be allowed to, get what you're owed eventually, and the community will thank you for it. And what the film turns into, to get him to do this very horrible, unthinkable thing, is he loses money. And he loses money in quite a very stupid way. His uncle accidentally gives money to Mr. Potter. And instead of actually, retracing his steps and realising that I've made a stupid mistake and giving it to Potter, he ends up getting confused and upset and all sorts of frustrated. And Uncle Billy, who's the uncle, actually loses the money. He's actually a really nice and really sweet guy. He loves animals. Like, when George goes to his house, you see squirrels and you see owls and things like that. And I love the fact that he's an animal lover and he's overly sensitive as well. So that's something that I can kind of, latch onto as well. But he gets pushed to the end of his rope, to the point where he's considering doing the unthinkable, George. And Clarence immediately comes down to him and tries to convince him not to do this stupid thing that he wants to do. So he decides to give him the option to see what the world would be like without him. And it's still dark, but it feels like a very light-hearted version of the Twilight Zone. This feels like a very Twilight Zone setup, where this guy basically is given a chance to see what the world's like without him. And there's so many moments where I found myself going, this film is brilliantly done. Like, I really do like the fact that when he goes back into that horrible period of when Bedford turns into Pottersville, it looks horrible. It looks tacky. It looks like a very filthy place to go. It looks like the sort of place where you feel like you need a shower after you've gone to go and visit it or something like that. And it really is well done, and I really do love it. And I love the references to the war that this film has as well. Like, there's a lot of references. There's even a scene in the film where, before the horrible flashback, there is a scene where he's helping out this immigrant couple who have just escaped Italy to under fascist rule from Mussolini to live in Bailey Park, which is the new park that George opens. And he does so many good things for this Italian family that the man who owns it eventually has his own bar, and he ends up helping George when he gets too beaten down and too angry and frustrated. And it's just such a lovely scene. Like, his loyalty to George is just so wonderful to watch. Like, when he says to his colleague Nick, like, you tell that man he's not allowed in my place no more, and things like that. Like, I really love how loyal he is to him. And I just love scenes like that. Like, I love the fact that things can get rough sometimes, especially around the holidays, but there's always that element of good can come through, good can shine through, and that's what this entire moral of this particular film is. It's basically telling people that, look, even though you may not think you're not getting enough out of what you're doing, you're not getting any thanks or any gratitude, people will reward you hundredfold if you do something good. And if you do something bad, well, we have Tales from the Crypt for that, telling you that, oh no, well, they'll repay you if you do bad things 100-fold by having a ghoul come to your door and, kill you if you're a bad person. But if you're a good person, you'll be rewarded with a ton of money and a lot of people singing Auld Lang Syne. But what I really love about this film is no matter how dark, one of my favourite scenes in the entire film, besides the ending, is a scene where, after finding out that his wife Mary, played by Donna Reed, is now that he's in this world where he's no longer born, she never met him, she never married, and she's pretty much miserable. She's a miserable old maid, as Clarence says. And he goes up to her, he tries to figure out where she is, and she's about to close up the library, and she's walking home, and I kept on thinking to myself, whenever I watch this, I always find myself thinking, wouldn't that be the most terrifying thing? Like, you're just going home from work, you haven't had a good day to begin with, but all of a sudden someone comes up to you and says, "Hi Mary, don't you know me? Like, I'm your husband." And she goes, "I don't know you, get away from me." And it's like, she was a lot more calmer than I would have been. Like, I'd have been like, "Go, get away from me, you psycho, like, get the F away from me." Like, it would be much more R-rated if it was me. Like, I'd be much more terrified. But part of me just feels like that's a thriller. That's a setup for a thriller. Like, what if that was turned into a bit of a thriller? There's so many good moments like that. But I really do love this film. It's definitely a treat for the holidays. I think it's one of Frank Capra's best. It's probably his only film that I've seen by him. And I think a lot of people who watch my channel are probably going to be typing in the comments going, "What? You've only seen one film of his and it's this one?" But there's so many other films that you need to see by this guy. But I hope I don't think it's going to come as close. I don't think any of his other films are going to come as close to It's a Wonderful Life to me, because I feel like this film really does make you feel good, especially when you're feeling kind of, not very all that great around this time of year, or you feel like, oh, there's too much going on, or there's so much, stress that's getting on top of you, or anything like that. Anything that happens throughout the holidays, if you're ever feeling down, just watch this film and it will definitely lift you up and make you feel like, yeah, there is good in the world and there is good things that matter and all these other things. And it's just such a wonderful film, and I always make it a rule to watch it whenever I can, every year, literally. It's always kind of a thing that we always watch every year. If not that, then I'll always watch Batman Returns, because that's my second favourite Christmas film to watch, and of course Krampus, just for the fun romp. But I love Batman Returns as well, for the very same reason, where it's all about family, and it's all about embracing people. But I think Batman Returns is much more darker. But It's a Wonderful Life is still dark, but it's not as dark as this. And I really do feel like the beginning of It's a Wonderful Life is very similar to A Christmas Carol, in the sense that when you think of A Christmas Carol, you think of, oh, it's this fun, light-hearted romp. But when you read the opening lines of A Christmas Carol, it starts off with, "Marley was dead to begin with." So it really kind of gives you that impression that this isn't going to be a happy romp in It's a Wonderful Life either. But let me know what you think of this film in the comments. Do you like it? Do you think it's a classic? Let me know what you think of this film, and let me know what you think of this review. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And for one last time, I hope you guys all have a wonderful Christmas, happy holidays, and I hope you're all doing very well, and that you're all safe and sound, and I hope you all have a very wonderful holiday, and look forward to more videos later on today. Actually, I'm actually going to record another video straight after this on the film Krampus, so look forward to that very soon, and I hope you're doing very well. Take care, bye bye for now.